Let's get started by understanding what is LangChain and why should we actually learn LangChain. Before we jump into LangChain, let's try to understand what exactly is a framework. Maybe you would have come across this word a lot of times at your workspace or maybe in a gathering or anywhere else. So here is an example that I would like to give you through which you can understand what exactly is a framework. Suppose you came to my office and I give you a task of cutting a piece of paper into a dimension of 5 meter by 5 meter. So what would you do? Will go ahead and cut the piece of paper into 5 by 5 meters length. If on the other hand I give you 1,000 identical pieces of papers and ask you to do the same thing, cut that particular piece of paper into 5 by 5 in the same way, no, you'll come up with a framework so that you can save your time. So that's what we call a framework. In this case, we'll maybe create a frame of 5 by 5 meters and use it for the rest of the pieces of papers to get the task done efficiently. So now comes what is software framework. A framework is something that we have already discussed. When it comes to software, it is nothing but something that provides the basic functionality which we can use by extending it to create more complex applications. It's simply a set of tools given to you which you can modify or add new components to it, and few of them are, as you can see right here. You can have some generic functionalities, you might have reusable software environment, and you might also have some libraries which you can end up using, and also some pieces of code which you can modify according to your need. Going ahead, here are a few examples of frameworks. So I have tried to include some of the popular front-end, back-end, and mobile application frameworks. As you can see, Angular framework, React JS framework, ASP.NET framework, and they are being used by many popular companies like Microsoft, Google, PayPal, Facebook, and many of them. And now, the most important thing that you have to understand is what is LLM, large language model. So this have gained a lot of popularity in the recent times. Let's try to understand what exactly is a large language model. These are just the models that were trained on massive amounts of data through which they were able to learn the patterns and relationship between different components available in it, basically the language. And now these LLMs are available in the market and we can directly go ahead and use them through APIs to get our tasks done, like translating some text from one language to another language and analyzing sentiments and even generating new text out of it, which you can not find over the internet. That's completely a new data because these models are very capable of generating new text out of whatever data that they have gone through. As you can see, these are few applications of it where you'd be able to search about any topic. You can summarize the given text. You can generate a whole new set of text, and you can also classify the things. You can cluster them. You can rewrite the whole sentence or the whole bunch of text that you have at hand, and also you can extract some information. There are a lot of use cases coming up into the market which uses large language models. Now moving ahead, let's look at the introduction of LangChain. What exactly is a LangChain? Because now you're familiar with what exactly is a framework and also what exactly is LLM, you will be able to understand what is the use of LangChain. How do you define the LangChain? LangChain is an open source framework that facilitates the developer with necessary tools that he need to create applications that are backed by or powered by large language models. You can consider them as some blocks that are helping you to communicate with different LLMs available in the market so that you can create a pipeline of this particular LLMs which talks with different data sources and helps you speed up the application development, and which would eventually help you create complex projects which would actually let you create complex applications which involve the usage of multiple LLMs and many other libraries. So when we learn something, when something new comes up in the market, we assume that it must be solving some problem which was existing earlier. So let's have the same assumption here and try to understand what exactly the Langchain is solving. Maybe if you are familiar with the LLMs available in the market, like OpenAI, AI21 Labs, all these are not up to date. They have been trained on data up to a particular date. After that, these LLMs have no idea about the recent events that have been taking place around the world. So you will not be able to get any information from these LLMs about the current events. And then they are not very good at domain knowledge and fail when working with proprietary data. What does this mean? This means that LLMs are too generic. They haven't seen your data. Maybe you are an insurance company and you have the information of your client. This will never be seen by the OpenAI or AI21 labs. So they never know what exactly your data contains. In this case, it might fail to answer your questions. And then working with different LLMs may become a tedious task because there are different LLM providers in the market, and because of various price tags attached to them, you might feel comfortable using one type of LLM for one task and another type of LLM for another task. So connecting all these things in a chain might become a tedious process, obviously. So, what is the solution for this? Here comes our LangChain benefits. The first thing that the LangChain solves is LangChain allows you to link your LLM to other data sources. This is where we feel confident that our application is up to date with the events around the internet. It can be databases, it can be Google search, it can be anything. We can add extra information to the already available generic LLM. This gives us a lot of capabilities through which we can create more complex applications. And then comes agentic. What do you get in mind when we say agent? Agents are something which will help you achieve something, right? So LangChain enables you to create agents that will use the LLMs to decide what to do and how to do it. So because of this communication and this intelligence, it will be able to create an environment which will help you achieve your task. For example, if I throw a question at the application, for example, the question states like this: Obama's wife is 3 years younger to him. So in this case, the agent will try to find the age of Obama first and then his wife. So this is how this particular intelligence is being used. And then comes chain. Chains are nothing but sequential execution, where you are going to use the output from one LLM to the other LLMs, or maybe you can feed it to any other tools that are available out there. So this gives you the ability to handle different tasks that need different input. Here are its capabilities. You'll be able to perform a lot of tasks by using these components. We'll be going through each one of them as we try to implement the projects. We'll touch up on each one of this to understand them better. There are prompts, indexes, chains, memory, agents, models, schema. And then there's a few of the use cases on a higher level. You can start creating personal assistants, question answering over documents. This is where I was telling you can use your data sources and link them up with LLMs to get domain specific answers. And then going ahead, you can also create chatbots. You can query any tabular data and you can interact with different LLMs and different libraries which can perform your task, and you can do data extractions, evaluation, and summarization. And there are many other applications and use cases to this particular LangChain, which we will try to explore as much as we can going ahead. OpenAI introduction. Let's try to understand it. So, what is OpenAI? This is a picture of Wikipedia that is describing what exactly is OpenAI and what it provides. As we can see, OpenAI is an artificial intelligence research laboratory which was a non-profit organization earlier, but it has become for profit, and it has provided powerful language models which are being used around the world. And few of them we will definitely look into it. And it was founded in the year 2015 by a lot of founders, and the names are mentioned right here. And as we can see, it has raised an investment of around 10 billion in 2023. So it has been going through a tremendous growth, and I would definitely ask you to learn this technology so that you can leverage it. Now, once we know what exactly is OpenAI, we should be curious about what exactly does an OpenAI provides for the customers. So here are few products and services that are being provided by the organization OpenAI. GPT-3, ChatGPT, Codex, DALI, OpenAI APIs, and Whisper. So these are few products and services that are being provided by OpenAI. The first thing right here, GPT-3. What do you mean by GPT-3? GPT-3 stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. This is nothing but a model which actually generates a text through its own knowledge. And ChatGPT is a flagship product of OpenAI because it has been built with billion parameters. And an interesting thing, GPT-3 can generate human-like texts and perform various natural language processing tasks like language translation, question answering, completion of a text, and summarization, and all these things. And then the next product, ChatGPT, it has all the capabilities of GPT-3, but the only difference is it provides a user interface where we can have an conversational interactions. It allows developers to actually integrate conversational agents into applications where the previous responses are considered and taken into context. And then third product, Codex. Codex is, you can consider it as an AI system developed by OpenAI, which has used publicly available code and trained the model in such a way that it is capable of providing code snippets, and it can also suggest the best fitted code for your implementation. And then the fourth one, DALI, is also an AI model that can generate unique and creative images, which doesn't exist over the internet. You'll be able to generate them. They are very unique. This allows us to create images through the text that we actually provide to it. And then OpenAI APIs. OpenAI provides an API that allows developers to access and utilize all its models, including ChatGPT, GPT, DALI, and Codex, and even Whisper. All these things can be accessed by APIs through which you'll be able to implement some creative applications that can help you in your everyday tasks. And all of this comes up with a cost attached to it. So please go ahead and explore them. We'll be soon looking into it, so no worries. But they are very cheap according to the other LLMs available in the market. With the accuracy they provide, that's very cheap. Now, moving ahead to use cases. OpenAI's technologies, particularly their language models that we were just talking about, has a very, very huge amount of use cases across various industries and domains. I've tried to mention few of them like customer support and virtual assistants, and then content creation and copywriting. So OpenAI allows you to create AI powered chatbots and virtual assistants which can provide automated customer support. So there's no need of someone available 24 hours to respond to a customer because this can be done very easily through a bot which can handle some basic queries, and even it will be able to provide some complex solutions to the end user. And then going ahead, content creation and copywriting. So this is one of the area where companies are spending a huge amount of money, and this can be easily done through the models being provided by OpenAI. This includes generating creative and engaging content, which includes articles, blog posts, product descriptions, social media captions, and many other things, and even marketing materials. And then programming and code completion. This aspect of OpenAI can help a developer create more authentic code and more efficient code, and it can even help the developer by reviewing the code that was implemented by him, and it can also suggest different alternatives available for that particular problem. And the fourth one, content moderation. In this scenario, OpenAI models can assist you in detecting and moderating inappropriate and harmful content by helping you maintain a safe environment for your customers. And the fifth one mentioned here, personalized. OpenAI models that are available to us can also power recommendation systems where you'll be able to get suggestions on relevant products, contents, movies, music, books, you can mention anything. It is capable of recommending this particular products to you, are your customers. To get started with OpenAI, which provides access to OpenAI's large models that we have just discussed, we can go ahead and register ourselves in this particular website. If you are a new user, you can just go ahead here and click on sign up, and you can use any of these options available here, or just an email ID and click on continue. But because I already have an account, I'll just go here and click on login. So this will take me to this particular home page where I can directly go to ChatGPT, which is an user interface right here. And if I don't want to go over there, I can directly go to API section of it. So here, make sure you familiarize yourself with OpenAI's API documentation by going right here so that you understand what are the endpoints and how the request should be and all these things. And also, if you're new to this, you can navigate to this particular account and look at the pricing of it. Here, you can get yourself familiar with the different language models available in OpenAI like this, and how much does it cost for you if you want to fine tune them, because all these language models are trained on generic data, and if you want to train them on your particular data, then this is considered as fine tuning and embedding models and all these things. So audio model, image model, and all these things, we'll be soon implementing projects, each one on this particular topics. So this is how you can understand what it will cost you if you end up using any of these models. So ChatGPT 4 costs you $0.03 per 1k tokens. And yeah, this is how it is, the pricing of it. So let's not get into it for now. So right here, you can set up, because whenever you sign up with a new email ID that you have with you, will be given a credit of $5, which you can use for your experimentation. Right here, as you can see, I'll just go to manage account, and I have added my credit card right here. As you can see, I've added my credit card right here, and you'll be charged according to your usage. I've kept the hard limit as 10 and $5 as soft limit. So I don't want this OpenAI to charge me if I reach this limit. So this can be extended till 120. You can edit and click on save, and then you can go to this and have a look at your usage. So this is what I have utilized till now for the May month, and once I reach this limit, it will just reject my API calls. So you need not to worry about huge expenses that comes up on your credit card bill at the end of the month. Okay, you can continue using it by keeping a bar on it. And these are the API keys that you can generate for your applications. This is one thing that I want you to do. Please go to this API keys from right here and create a new key. Just name anything and just click on create. So it will give you a key. Okay, just copy it and keep it safely in your system, anywhere else on your laptop also. So this is what it is. You can also go ahead and start exploring the examples of how this can be implemented, a Q&A application, how to implement it, how to implement a grammar correction application, and there are huge number of use cases given over here, around 40 I guess so. Please try to give at least an hour going through this so that you understand what are the use cases of ChatGPT and how creatively you can use it for your work. So that's it. We have set up an account in OpenAI, and then we are having the API key with us. That's it. Let's go ahead and try to implement a use case. Let's have a look at a demo which will demonstrate how we can leverage Langchain while implementing a project. This is a small example through which I'll try to demonstrate or show you how we can use Langchain to give more power to the available LLMs. Here, as you can see, I have already implemented the code for this particular use case. I'll just walk you through the different components that I've tried to use. The task that we will try to accomplish right here is ask the assistants a few questions and see if it is able to give accurate answers to us. For that, the basic libraries that you might have to import are this. The first one, Langchain, which you need to install, and then OpenAI, because we'll be working with OpenAI models, and PyPDF2 and all this, because I'll be working with PDF and all these things. Don't be confused about it, because soon we will try to implement a lot of projects during which you will be able to get yourself comfortable with all these libraries. So it's just a demo, so no worries. And once this is done, we are trying to import some important classes that we are planning to use in our project. So this is what I have done right here. And then import OS. This allows us to communicate with the operating system. As you can see, I have tried to paste the API key that I have got from OpenAI website and assign this to an environmental variable called OpenAI API key. So this might not work for you because I'll be deleting this soon. So you can go ahead and try to use yours. And then here, this is a simple LLM call with generic knowledge, because we know all these large language models are trained on some massive amount of data which is generic in nature and that doesn't contain any domain knowledge. I have a file with me which says Huhu is a fictional character and he's very good at humor. All of his friends like him a lot. Huhu is from Egypt, and this is the information that I have about Huhu. But I know that Huhu is a recent character that has been popping around the internet recently. So I assume the model which I'll be working is not aware of it because it has been trained only till a particular date. Okay, after that, it don't have any knowledge about any recent events that have been happening. So I assume that if I ask anything regarding Huhu, which is a fictional character, this will fail to answer it. So that's what we will prove. So here I'm going ahead, I'm calling an OpenAI function which will take the model name. So this is the model which is being used, and all this different type of models available and all this information I'll walk you through later. This is just a simple demo that I want to show you. So yeah, let's go ahead. And this is the query that I have in mind. How many awards did Huhu won? We know from this document that he has won 5 awards. But do you think the LLM will be able to give the answer to it? Let's go ahead and see it. Let's go ahead and see it through user interface that we have, which is ChatGPT. So I'm right here into this particular URL, chat.openai.com. You can log into this, and once this is done, you can go right here and try to copy this. Just copy this and paste it here and then enter. Let's see what it will respond with. So it says, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about it, because these models were trained only till 2021. So these models will not be aware of the recent information. So this is where the LangChain will help you. Going back, I'll try to run this till this point and see what this gives up. See, it says it is not possible to answer this question as there is no enough information to determine how many awards Huhu has won. So because it doesn't have any information about Huhu, this particular person, it is unable to answer this question. But let's try to go ahead and try to leverage the functionalities of LangChain to get the answer from this particular model. So here I'll call it as LLM call with our PDF as reference. So I'm taking the PDF that I have with me, and then here I'm just taking all the information from all the pages, though I have only single page right here. In real scenarios, we might have multiple pages. So let's take all the text from them, and this is the combined text. So I'll just execute this also. So this is the text that we have, and then we are splitting them, because right now you only have small amount of text, but in reality you might end up having maybe 10 millions of characters, 10 millions of words, 10 million sentences. So in that case, we want to make them into chunks. So this is what will help you with that. So once that is done, as you can see, we have only got one with this particular chunk size. So this everything will go through, no need to worry. So once this is done, we'll try to have the embedding class object. So once this is done, I'm using FAISS, which stands for Facebook AI Similarity Search. It's an open source library developed by Facebook. You don't have to register for this, so you can directly use it up. So this is what I'm doing to search for this particular question. Okay, it will have a lookup with this particular PDF and try to give me an appropriate answer. This is what this is doing here. So I'll just try to execute this also, and I'm linking a QA chain, which is nothing but question and answer. Once this is done, I'll execute this also, where our query is how many awards did who won. If I run it, it will take some time and it says who won a total of 5 awards. So this is what we were able to achieve by linking up things. So Langchain has helped us give multiple data sources to the existing LLM, which has helped us return the answer that we were expecting. So this is just a simple example that I have provided you. So we'll go ahead and try to implement it so that you understand how you can do it by yourself. Thank you. For a few of our initial projects, we'll be using Jupyter notebooks so that you understand it better and in a clean way. For that, we have to install the Anaconda package. As you can see, Anaconda is an open source distribution of Python and R, primarily used for data science, scientific computing, and machine learning. And then this was initially released in 2012, programming language Python. It is available in all the OS available in the market: Windows, Linux, and macOS. It actually provides a comprehensive set of tools, libraries, and packages that can be used during our implementation, which helps us. So it is free, as you can see right here. There is a freemium available for this particular distribution, a package. So you can download it and start using it. Let me go into this particular website and you'll be able to see a button called download. Because I'm using Windows, I can directly go and download this. If you are an user of Linux or Mac, you can go and install the appropriate installation. For me, I'll just go ahead and use this 64-bit graphical installer. I can just click on this. So it will start downloading the installer for me. So once you have the installation file, you can just double click on it and try to install it. It might take a while and setup should load, and this is how the installer will look like. You can click on next and accept the terms and click on I agree, and it should be just me. If you have many users, you can do it for all users, but you can leave it default. And then where exactly you want it to install, check if you have the enough memory to install it. Now click on the next button and let the default options be there, and you can click on install. So this should take a while and the installation will be finished. So once this is done, we will try to navigate to Anaconda Navigator, which is a graphical interface that actually simplifies the management and launch of Anaconda packages, as we will soon see. Because it provides a user-friendly interface for installing packages, launching Jupyter Notebook, and managing the environments and everything. So that's where even I like it a lot, and I implement most of my projects using Anaconda and the Jupyter Notebook. For me, the installation has taken few minutes and we are done with it. It might take a longer time for you based on your system's capability. You can just click on next and then next and finish. Now this is done. This will show up on your screen which says a success. You can close this up and navigate to your start menu and click navigate. So this is what I was talking about. You can double click on it. It will take a few seconds to launch. This is how it looks like, a graphical user interface containing all the available applications, environments, the community links, and all these things. So from right here, you can use any of these applications that you are interested in. For now, we'll be going ahead with this Jupyter notebook. Let me click on launch. It should launch an interface similar to this, where you'll be able to see all the folders and files that are available in your system. Let me go ahead and start creating a new notebook. So once I select Python 3, it will show up a new notebook. So here I can just go ahead and print hello world. I'll just execute it. So this is how you'll be able to execute your programs. So basically, Jupyter Notebook is a web-based interactive environment for writing and executing your codes, where you'll be able to visualize the data and also create reports. So these are mostly used when you want to perform some analysis and prototyping and also want to share your program with someone else. So this is something that we'll be using soon for our initial projects. Please go ahead and install this distribution, which is Anaconda, so that we can proceed and start the implementation. Langchain modules. So these are a few things that we will try to explore more. We are right here in the documentation website of Langchain, and as we can see, there are mainly 6 modules available in Langchain: models, prompt, memory, indexes, chains, agents, and callbacks. So we'll go from top to bottom and we'll try to dig deeper into all of these modules. So let's go ahead and try to understand the first one, which is models. As the documentation goes, these are some of the models that are being used in Langchain. So we'll understand the applications of LLMs, chart models, and text embedding models one by one. Moving ahead, I have tried to mention all the modules which the Langchain provides, and these topics cover all of them. And then, as already discussed, coming to models module, there are mainly 3 models that the Langchain actually, when we talk about models, there are majorly 3 type of models that we will try to communicate when using Langchain. One is LLMs, the other one is chart models, and the third one is text embedding models. The first one is, it just takes an input. I'll just try to go through it. As we can see right here, the LLMs take prompts as input to generate an output, which can be a completion of whatever text that you want to generate. And because this particular models are trained on massive amount of data, these models can give you most deterministic output and also great creative outputs, which could be used for your tasks. So thus enabling the user with more capabilities and even the applications to perform a more complex task. As you can see, the input for this is prompt, which can be anything. Maybe the benefits of eating an apple a day. Maybe you might ask how the bags are actually manufactured, or maybe also how the laptop itself is assembled. Basically, there are a lot of LLMs available in the market like GPT-3, BART, Blue. I would like to show you an interesting article that I was just going through. There are different preparatory foundation models, the LLMs basically, and there are also open source LLMs. So it's completely depends on you which one will you choose, because there are a lot of things that you might consider: the performance, cost, ease of use, and flexibility. So based on your AI budget and based on your requirement, you might end up choosing one among this. One among the open source distribution is Hugging Face. It's a community and data science platform that actually provides tools that enables users to build, train, and deploy ML models based on an open source code and technologies basically. So you can simply think this platform as a community of data scientists and researchers who come together to share ideas, get support, and also contribute to open source projects. So here you will be able to find a lot of models available which you can directly use them. Most of them are actually free. Directly log in yourself here into this particular website, then you can directly go right here, go to settings. This is similar to what we have done in OpenAI website, and go to access tokens. You can generate your access tokens and just use them up. So make sure you create an account here and keep this API key ready so that we can experiment with this also. Back to this particular slide, as our agenda right now is to understand and learn what exactly is LLM. I'll try to take you to the ChatGPT and show you how exactly this LLMs work. This is how the user interface of this will look like for ChatGPT. You can navigate yourself to this URL and create an account and start using it. I'll just type what is the currency of India. Let me see what it gives out. The currency of India is Indian rupee. That's great. So it will start giving the explanation of it. This is how a person without any programming knowledge would do. He'll go directly here and just start typing whatever he wants. But as a person in the software community, you might try to implement applications that can actually give this particular facility to your customers. So how do we do it? Very simple. We can take the help of Langchain and start implementing the same behavior. Let's go ahead and start implementing what we have just learned now. You can go ahead and create a new notebook by clicking on this particular option, and I already have implemented this with the well structured comments so that you can understand it in a good way. So the first command that we have to execute is pip install Langchain. This command called pip install is actually used to install Python packages that might be helpful to you during your development of the project, and also this is done through a tool called pip package manager. So this is how we install it. Let's go ahead and try to execute this by clicking on this particular run button, or I can just click on shift enter. So this might take some time and it will just execute it. So as I have already mentioned, there are different types of LLMs available in the market. Some are paid and some are open source. So let's go ahead and try to do it with a paid version of LLM, and then we will try to do it with open source LLM. Okay, for this particular example, I'm using OpenAI. The next immediate thing that we will try to do is we will install OpenAI. This is a library which will help you connect with OpenAI APIs. This is the same way that we have done earlier. And then comes, I'll just execute this also by clicking shift enter. So this also might take some time and install the OpenAI library. The reason why we are using this is so that we can continue interacting with the OpenAI APIs. Fine, we are right here, and this statement says import os.environ, and then this is the key and this is the value. Okay, this thing you can get it from the OpenAI website, as we have already explored. I've tried to explain what exactly this particular command means. You can have a look at this particular comment right here. It says this import OS actually imports the built-in module, which is OS, using which you will be able to interact with operating system, where you can access the environmental variables which would be useful to you when you start implementing the application, and also it will allow you to interact with files, directories and everything. Okay, so that is where we are trying to use this for our project, because we want to save the OpenAI API key which can be used anywhere else in our project. So this is what we are doing. This environment thing is a dictionary which will save a key along with a value. So similar to this, you can just replace this with name or anything else. But the next steps that we'll be executing require this particular key. So we have used this statement right here. Let me execute this also. And then right here, we are using a command called from langchain.llms import OpenAI. What does this mean? As we know, Langchain is a framework. It has created wrappers around OpenAI APIs. So that's how we are able to access OpenAI through Langchain. So this statement here is doing nothing but it is trying to import this particular class from this module of Langchain library. So this is what we are using up because we want to communicate with OpenAI. We are trying to import this particular class which will allow us to communicate or perform our task basically. So we'll just go ahead and execute this also. And once done, we are right here. And this is a very simple command that we are executing. This simply means that we want to use OpenAI class and it expects a parameter called model name. This is simply just a variant, a model variant available in OpenAI, which will allow us to perform our tasks such as summarization, completion, classification. Anything can be done using this particular model. There are different variations of this. You can go ahead and, as you can see, there's GPT 3.5 Turbo and text ADA variant and many more. Okay, you can just experiment with them if you want. So we are just creating an instance of this so that we can use that particular model. Here LLM represents this particular model. That's the true meaning in simple words. So going ahead, we can just use this to predict whatever we want. I'll just execute this step also. And then we are right here because our task was to see how this particular action of asking the ChatGPT something and getting back some result through APIs, that's what we will try to do it. So our query will be, what is the currency of India? And I expect Indian rupee. So we are passing this as an input to the model that we have right here and save this output to a variable called completion, and we'll look into it and we will look into the response of it. Let me execute this. It might take a while and it is executed, so I'll just execute this particular line too. It says the currency of India is the Indian rupee. This is the same response that we have got through ChatGPT. Right here we have the same thing. So the things that you were able to achieve through this particular interface, we're able to achieve the same through APIs. So you can use those APIs to build your own applications going forward. You might also be able to build something like this by your own. And then let's also explore how this can be achieved using open source LLMs. So we will go ahead and try to use Hugging Face for this particular experimentation. I have chosen this model and this particular variant. We'll use this and try to predict the answer for the question that we have. For that, I just need to know the repository of it, which is google/flan t file large. And you can also get your access code from this particular tab, access tokens. Just copy this. And coming back to the code, the first command that we will execute is Hugging Face Hub. So this is nothing but a library that we might need when we want to communicate with Hugging Face. So I'll just execute this. So this might take a while, and once that is done, we'll try to do the same which we have done earlier. So this would be the key which this function might use, and this is what we will get from the Hugging Face website. So I've given the access code right here, and this is the key. This will stay always the same because this is something that is defined by the Langchain so that it can use it to perform some actions. And the next thing is, I'll just execute this also. So this is executed, else it will just show an asterisk here if it's executing. You can also see this being black if this particular notebook is performing on something. So this is done, and we are there right here. So this says that we are trying to import this particular class from this module and this library so that we can continue using or continue predicting the answer for the question that we have. I'll just execute this. This is similar to what we have seen right here. And then once we have this, we'll try to create an instance of this particular class by passing the repository ID, which is this, as we have seen in the website. So this is the representation of this particular class. So we'll just go ahead and use this to predict the answer. We have also passed the parameter, which is the repository ID, through which it will be able to confirm that this is the model that I have to use for performing some natural language tasks. So let me execute this. It might take a while, and we are right here. And this is similar to what we have seen earlier. Our query, we want to know what is the currency of India, and we are passing this query to our model that we have, the model object. Then I'll try to execute this also. This is executed and I'll print it. It shows rupee. The answers vary a bit. As you can see, it is a more readable kind of thing than this, but this is free and this is paid. That's the only difference. So you can go ahead and start modifying your query so that you get an approximate answer with good performance so that you can save some budget on your project. So this is how you can go ahead and start exploring different models available in Hugging Face and also do some experimentations while using OpenAI. Hope you were able to understand the concept of LLMs. This looks very simple, but it has been of tremendous use in the industries. There have been a lot of use cases coming up which are saving tons of time at enterprise level, which is leading to huge profits. So let's go ahead and start learning some other type of models. As we have already seen how the Langchain can be used to use up an LLM to get the task done, we'll go ahead and try to implement a real-time working application which will have a proper UI through which you will be able to communicate with the application. For that, assuming you are completely new to creating applications and deploying them to production, I'll take you through step by step, where for now I'll try to use this particular website, Hugging Face, to deploy our solutions. If you're new to this is where we were able to get the APIs and use up the modules, which will be available right here in this particular space using the access code that we had from right here. But now, because we are interested to build our applications through which we can communicate to the model, let's go ahead and have a look at this particular tab right here, which is Spaces. This particular component of Hugging Face will allow you to create your own applications. As you can see, there are a lot of applications that have been created by others. You can just click on one of them. Maybe I'll just click on this and I can see that this particular thing is a application, which is a working solution. You can go right here and look into the code of it. You can open this and have a look at it so that you yourself might be able to implement similar kind of applications or add up 10 kind of applications and make a complex real-time application out of this experimentations. So similar to what people have done right here in this spaces, we'll go ahead and create our application using the same code right here. Let me go ahead and go to the home page. Then I'll come back to this again, spaces, and right here you will have an option which says create new space. I will click on it and then I'm the owner and it's asking for us to create a new space name. Let this be LLMs intro. Then we'll go ahead and I'll just select this particular option here. This Streamlit is nothing but an open source framework available out there which will provide a rapid development framework which can be used to implement some applications with a great ease. And later we will try to explore the other options too as we go forward. And we'll try to choose the free tier here, which is CPU, only vCPU and 16 GB RAM, and that's it. This is free for us right now. We'll go ahead with this. If you are trying to get more performance, then you can go ahead with any of this available right here. For now, I'll just try to make it private. You can keep it as public. I'll just create it. Done. So we have the same environment that we have just now saw. It gives out some of this particular instructions. You can follow them or directly go to files. You can add a requirements.txt file at the root of the repository to specify Python dependencies. Because if you have a look at it, you have been importing or installing few of these particular libraries. So this is what will go into that particular requirement.txt. Then this is what is the version installed and all these things. So I'll just go into the files and let's have a look at this. So we just have the readme file. It says the title of it and all the versions details. So the number one thing that we have to do right now is let's go ahead and add the requirements file. We can directly go right to this particular option and click on create a new file, and then we'll just type requirements.txt. So this should create us a file, and under that we'll try to include this particular options, Langchain, and we'll also be using this. We'll also be using Streamlit. I'll just save it. So this should create a file with this name, and this is there. Let me click right here. This is created for us right now. And the other thing that we might need is OpenAI API. For this, I'll just go ahead and create another file which will actually have the information about what are the keys that we are actually using in our project. A more meaningful definition for this particular file here would be, it's a kind of file that usually stores information about all the libraries, modules, and packages that will be used by this particular project. That's that simple. And then we will go ahead and create a file named .env hyphen sample. So this particular file will usually store any sensitive informations that you will have, right? So for that you might end up using a dictionary key value pair. So this file will only contain the keys of that, so that you know that these are the particular values that are being used, and you don't save the values right here in this particular file. So you can directly go ahead and copy this key right here and paste it with this syntax. That's it. So I'll just commit it. Yeah, this is also there right now. So we have all the required things. The next thing that we will add is app.py. So this is the main Python file that we'll be working on to make our app working. So this is also added right here. So we are done with the initial setup, and now we'll go ahead and try to add the boilerplate into which we can accommodate this particular code right here. So right now we have the environment ready for us to start the work. We can directly go to this particular file and start editing this, or we can directly upload any file that we have with us, which was implemented locally on your system. So let me show you something. I have already implemented it, so I thought it would be better that I walk you through the code rather than actually implementing it in this particular course, so that you understand this in a more better way. So this is the file that we'll be using. So let me upload this into this particular repository. You can add it from here. You can click on this and you can navigate to this and select this particular file, and then you can directly commit it. This is updated. If I open this, there's a lot of code right here. Don't be scared with this particular code. I'll just take you through each one of these lines here. Let's go ahead. This first command here indicates that we are trying to import Streamlit library as st. St here is nothing but an alias name, and Streamlit is a library. This library actually helps us implement any projects very rapidly, because this library gives us a lot of components which can be used while implementing a solution or an application. So we have imported it, and from this module we are trying to import OpenAI. So this is what we have done earlier also. when trying to work with LLMs. So we have imported that also. This for now you can just ignore it, and this is a point to be noted, so let me go through it. Using this alias name, we can use this property to set the title of this particular project that we are trying to implement, and then we can also set the page icon. And st, which is a again alias name of Streamlit dot header, will set the header of this particular application that we'll be working on. Once this is done, the next thing is, always remember this particular application will run from the top to bottom. Okay, this is something that we have to keep in mind. So this is also a function which you can ignore for now, and then comes this line from where the execution should start. So this particular script will be executed from here, and then this will be just loaded and not executed because this is a function right here. This is set, and then there is another function here which will be executed when it's called. If you're completely new to programming, then function is nothing but a piece of code that is packaged so that it can be called whenever there is some work related to it, so that you don't have to write the same code again and again. So as you can see here, this particular thing tells that you're trying to capture the input from the user, and for that you're trying to use this function, which is getText. As soon as this particular line is executed, it says that this function has to be called upon, and it will go to right here, and this will be executed. Right here we can see it's st.textInput. This simply means that we are trying to tell the Python script, please ask the user for an input. For that purpose, create a text box where he can input the data. So that is what is actually happening. Let me show you by actually displaying the application. I'll just go back to this particular app. I think they should fail because I didn't provide the API key. As you can see, this is not provided yet. I'll copy this, and then here in the options you will find this particular repository secrets where you can create it. Copy this, and I'll be pasting this and clicking on this, so you can do the same. So here it is, I've saved it. So if I just go back to this again and try to run the app, you don't have to manually run it, you just have to click on this and it will start running. This is loaded completely. So if I give something here, which is what's the Indian currency, so this text box right here is referring to this particular option. Okay, this is asking for the user input, and the same is being stored in input text, and this is being returned to whichever has called this function, which is nothing but user input. So this is how we are able to get the information from this to our variable, which is user input. And then similar to this, right now, once this is executed, it will move on to the next one. Here we have another function which is being called, which is load answer. For this particular function, the parameter that we'll be passing is nothing but the input that we get from the user, as from here. This is the one that we are passing to this. In this case, we have to pass this to this. So as soon as this is executed, it will directly go and call this function. First thing, it will take the question, which is nothing but input user. Right now, question here would be this: what's the Indian currency? And then here we have a code snippet which resembles this, where we are creating an object of OpenAI class. This is the same here, and then we are passing this model the question, and then we are passing this model the question that we have so that we can get the answer. And this is nothing but this. So once this is done, it will try to return the answer. Great, that we also have the answer with us, which is response. Fine. So now what? Now we have to write it back to the website that we have, which is this. For that, I have to click on something, right? For this page to refresh or give out the output, I have to click on generate or some button. So that is what we will try to implement. As you can see, there is a code snippet which says st.button generate. So Streamlit provides us with an easy code or a simple code that allows us to implement a button. Here Streamlit.button, and we are naming that button as generate. So this is what is showing up here. So as soon as I click on generate, what happens is it should take some time and generate the answer. So what exactly has happened in the background? So as soon as I clicked on generate, this particular code snippet, it has saved the answer to submit. So this carries all the information that we have performed on this generate. So the next option that will be executed here is if submit. Because this is true right now, because this is submitted, this will be generated, which is st.subheader. We have tried to give a heading to it, which is answer, which you can see right here. It is constant always. But then here is something that you have to look into. It says st.write response. So this command here helps us to write something back to the application. And what is response here? If you trace back to it, this is the response that we have got from the model. I hope you were able to get a good walkthrough of the code, which should give you a good idea of how to implement a basic LLM. I'll just give an recap of what we have done. So this is the app.py file that we have created, and we have imported Streamlit, which is an open source framework which will allow you to create UI for your applications. And then we have this particular import being done because we want to communicate with the OpenAI models. And then this is a function which will take a question and then give out the answer from the API, which is OpenAI. Then we have tried to assign some values to the application that we are trying to implement, such as page title, the header. This can be changed according to your project. And then here, this function will return us whatever text that the user has entered in this text box. So this will be saved and returned back. So here is where we are calling these functions so that we can achieve whatever is needed. First time we are calling getText to get the input from the user, and then using this output we are trying to go ahead and give this particular output to the next function, which is load answer, where this thing goes into it and then takes it to the API and gets back the answer and returns that particular answer to this variable right here. And then we have kept a button called generate. As soon as this is clicked, this will be true for us. So we are writing a condition. If this is true, then go ahead and execute this. So this is what has happened. I'll just show you another run. Who is Obama? And then generate. Oh, sorry, a typo here. Yeah, the answer is correct. So here's the American politician who served as the 44th president of USA. Great. Like this, you can go ahead and start implementing your projects, and do comment if you find any difficulties while implementing this so that I can help you out with your queries. So all this code right here will be available to you at the end of the project. Please go ahead and try implementing it by yourselves. That's where you'll find some issues, and if you can overcome them, you'll be a good developer. Let's try to explore the second type of model, which is chart models, right here. As we can see, chart models are like advanced type of language models that can generate human-like responses, which are very similar to how we chat with our friends and get response from them. But here the person behind the chat response, yes, is a AI powered system. Chat models are also known as conversational AI models, and as I have already told, this particular models are designed to generate human-like responses in a conversational manner. You ask something, it gives the response. You ask something on top of it, it will understand the context and it will try to give another response to you, and so on. Because this particular models are trained on very vast amount of text data, and they utilize deep learning behind them. So that's where they are able to come up with that much accuracy. You can find this particular type of applications in chatbots, virtual assistants like Alexa, like Siri and all applications, and these are really being used in customer support systems where the customer asks for a particular query and it tries to give the answers to them, and if not possible it tries to connect to a particular specific person who can solve the issue. Let's go ahead and try to implement a practical use case of this particular. Let's go ahead and try to implement something where we can use chat models. I already have implemented and documented it very well so that you understand the flow from top to bottom. This will be available to you at the end of the project. So please download it and try to run it at your end so that you understand the things. The first thing is pip install Langchain. So this will help us install the Langchain library into our environment so that we can go ahead and start using it. This is commented. I'll just remove them. Yeah, I'll try to execute this. So it might take a while to install it. And then last time we have used OpenAI and Hugging Face, but going forward, I'll try to use OpenAI to make the concepts clear and not leave you with some doubts in your mind. Because using two parallelly might confuse you, so I've decided to go ahead with one model and give a clear picture about that. So this is installed, and I'll just do another shift enter and then shift enter. As you can see right here, we are using OpenAI library, so we'll be installing this also. So this might take some more time, so I'll just go ahead, and this is something that you're already aware of. Because we are using OpenAI models, we have to provide the API key of it. So this is what I have done. I'll just try to execute this also. If you're confused about this, I have already explained, but still you can go through this particular comment here. And once this is done, as you can see, the class that we will be using has changed, which was earlier OpenAI, that has become Chart OpenAI, because we are dealing with chart models. This line simply says that we are trying to import Chart OpenAI class from this module of this library that we have already imported or installed, sorry. And let's go ahead and execute this too. So this is done, and the next thing we have to import are this particular things which will help us pass some input as conversations. So I'll execute this also. As you can see, these are few things that we're trying to import from schema module of Langchain. So this is also done. I can go ahead, and we are right here. This step is a bit important here, so please try to understand this. You can read it from here just to understand the context of it. Here we are using this class that we have imported, which is this, and we know from the documentation that it expects few parameters. One is temperature, which is 0.7, which is mentioned right here, but it ranges from 0 to 1. 0 means very deterministic outputs. If you ask something to it like what you're going to do in this particular morning, it will give some answer. The same answer is expected how many ever times you run this particular code. But if you keep varying this, and as it approaches one value, the answer might become creative. Just to introduce some randomness and give more creativity to the model, and this is what we call randomness. We can increase it up until 1. If you want to have the same output and deterministic output, you can mention it as 0. For now, I have mentioned it as 0 0.7, and the model that we'll be using is GPT 3.5 Turbo. So there might be different models available out there. The models keep changing and the company keeps releasing the newer versions of it. So please feel free to experiment with them. For now, I'm just taking this and I'm trying to create an object out of this particular class so that I can use this later on to get the work done. So I'll just execute this, and as you can see, this particular chart OpenAI model right here expects this particular inputs. A user input where we ask how are you today, that particular model will give out I'm great, thank you, how can I help you, and you tell I'd like to understand string theory, and you can go ahead and start understanding it. So we are right here. This is what the model expects, a chart under which we have this particular values. One is system message and human message, and we can also give an AI message. So let's go ahead and try to understand how the simple model works first. Here I have given the system saying you are a sarcastic AI assistant. So this is something you can relate it as a role play where we tell someone that you are something. You are a prime minister, you are a president, are you an apple, or maybe you're a dog, so respond as if you're a dog. So because this LLMs are being trained on a large corpus of data, so they are a doctor, they are an engineer, and they are a lawyer, so they have all the knowledge with them. So we want them to be very specific, so that's where you can actually command and or order in particular assistance, so you can be very specific about what you want this particular model to act as. So I want this to be a sarcastic AI assistant, so that's what it is trying to do, and then I'll pass another message right here into this particular list by saying my message then would be please answer in 30 words how can I learn driving a car. So let's go ahead and try to run this and let's see what happens. It might take a while and will give you the answer. It says step 1, sit in driver's seat. Step 2, turn key or press start button. Step 3, press gas pedal, steer wheel and brake. This is really sarcastic. Step 4, repeat until successful. It has also given a disclaimer saying seek proper driving instruction, because even it is very afraid of this. If you end up driving this way, you will end up with an accident. So they have given a disclaimer over here. So that is what it is behaving right here, that it has become a sarcastic AI assistant. Let's go ahead and see how this works in an UI interface. So I'll just try to paste this and see what response it might give. Oh, learning to drive a car, simple. Just hop behind the wheel, close your eyes, and hope for the best. Take lessons from a qualified instructor. So, something that we were able to do through UI, we are now able to achieve through APIs. What are the benefits? So, when we know how to achieve it through APIs, we have the capabilities to build some product out of it. That's what we have learned. So, this is what this is. Because I have kept a temperature of 0 0.7, this answers will keep changing if I just refresh this. I have just rerun it and this will change, as you can see. And then going ahead, this is the particular conversation that we'll try to have once again. This time it would be a little different because here you might find another content coming up, which is AI message. This thing right now is there to help us create a context. Suppose you told the bot that it's a 3 years old girl. Please behave as if it's a 3 years old girl who answers very cutely and in a very funny way. And then, assuming you might have asked, how can I learn driving a car? It gave out, I can't drive yet, but I have a driver my dad. A bit funny. So either you can get it from the model, or you can think yourself and try to give this particular behavior to your model. So this is what I have done. And then if I ask it another question, can you teach me driving? Because the model behaves according to the previous conversation, this it knows that this is a 3-year-old girl and this is how her behavior is. So based on this model will try to respond with a similar kind of response again. So I've just executed it. Let's see what happens. It might take a while. Done. And I'll just execute this. And it says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm still too little to drive, but maybe when I grow up I can teach you how to drive. So this is very cute. She says that I'm really sorry, I'm very too little, so please wait till I grow up. That's how. If I just go ahead and run it again, let's see what response we might get. It says, sure, I can teach you how to drive a toy car. We can start with that and then move on to a real car when you're old enough. But for now, let's buckle up and hit the imaginary road. So the responses might become a little creative as you have set this value to 0.7. Hope you have got the concept of chart models. These are very useful when you're trying to build a system similar to a chatbot where you are expecting the model to help you out with some answers. So that was all about chat models for now. Let's go ahead and try to implement it as a real application which we can start using. For this, I'm again using Hugging Face, and later on for the other applications we'll be working on, we'll try to use other technologies. Right here, we'll try to navigate to spaces and then create a new space as we have already done. This will be chart model app, and we will select Streamlit for this, and this should be free and this is private, and create a space. This is something that we have already done, and then we'll go ahead to files, and this time just to save some time we'll go ahead and add some files that are already available with us. I'll go right here and take all these files, Control E, and then open. It will add those files and I'll just click on commit. So we have this 3 files being added to this particular repository, which is app.py and then requirements.this, which have all the libraries that we need, and then we have environment.sample. Because this is the only API key that we are using, we have only kept this. And the next thing, make sure that you add up your OpenAI key right here. Give the name and also add the key. Once this is done, we are almost done with the setup. So let me go to this files and we'll quickly have a walkthrough of the code that we are using. Before that, let me show you the application, how it looks like. It might take a while to load up. Here it is. Hey, I'm your ChatGPT. Let me click hi and click on generate. It says, hello, how can I assist you today? Let's say my name is Sharath and click on generate. And it says, nice to meet you, Sharath. How can I assist you today? And let's see if it is able to actually remember the conversation between us. I'll ask, what's my name? Wait, just to confirm if it is able to remember what we had just discussed. It is able to. Great. So this is what you'll be able to implement at the end of this explanation. So I'll just navigate myself to app.py. Don't be scared of this particular code here. There's something that you have already gone through. This is the exact code right there. Let's break it down. The first one, which is similar to the first project, we are trying to import Streamlit, and then we are also importing Chart OpenAI class, which we have done here. This one. And then we are also trying to import some of the components that we need. This also we have done right here. And then this is something that you're already aware of. This is to set the page title and also set the page icon and also the header of it. Soon we will find there is a session messages. What does this mean? Whenever you're working with Streamlit application, you might end up clicking some button after choosing some option and the page will refresh itself. To carry the information from or between session to session, we are using this. Don't be confused about it. It's a simple concept. I'm just checking if this session is already available. If it's not, I'm creating this session variable. Okay, so under that I'm giving out system messages. You are a helpful assistant. That is what we had earlier. This, you are a sarcastic AI assistant. This is something that we are telling to the model. And then we have a function which we'll be calling soon, and we have another function which is similar to what we had earlier. This just represents, just let me show you. If I just navigate myself to the application, this box here represents this. Okay, yeah, right now we are forming an object out of this particular class that we have already seen. This here we are mentioning temperature and model. I have taken temperature here and I'm considering the model, the default model will be this. Okay, then here, because none of this will be executed after this, now user input. So from this particular function that we wrote here, we'll be able to get the input from the user to the application, basically a variable which can be used later on. So whatever is provided there we'll be able to get by using this function, because this will call this and this will take the input from the user and give it to this variable and return that variable to us, which will assign to the user underscore input variable. Once this is there, we'll start clicking on generate button. So what happens once we click on generate button? Once we click on this will be executed and the output will be stored right here. And once this is done, there is a condition called if submit. Because this submit is true, as we have clicked on generate, this will be passed on to this. If true, then we are taking something. Then we are trying to call a function which is load answer, which takes user input, which is nothing but whatever we have got from here, which is hi, maybe for now. This hi will be passed on to this as an input. So where exactly is this function? This function is right here. So it will take up a parameter called question, because for now our question is just hi. So hi will pass from here to this particular code snippet. Let's see what is happening right here. So we can see that we have session state variables, okay, which is session messages. What is session messages? It is a list with one value in it. Okay, to that we are just adding human message so that we can pass it to the model as we have done earlier. This is what we are passing, right? We are passing this system message along with human message to the model so that we can get AI, the actual output from the model. So this is what we are trying to do. Here this append simply attaches the hi that we have typed here to this list that is already there. Once that is done, we are using a representation of this model, which is chart, the object of it, and we are passing on this value, which is a combination of this and the human message that we had, hi. Okay, here we had something else, please answer in 30 words and all that, but for now it's hi. So this along with hi will be passed on to this and we should get some output, right, which is in this case, hello, how can I assist you today? And in this case, well, assuming you have access to a car and all these things, these are the outputs. The same thing we will get here for our question, and we are saving this also to our list of session messages, so that later on we can pass even this as an input to the model. Okay, hope I'm clear till this point. And then I'm returning everything, and then I'm just returning the answer that I have got from the model rather than sending this particular message itself. This is done, and this is called by this function call. This will be assigned to this response. So whatever response that the bot gave in actual, this thing has come back to this variable, and we are using st.write to display this thing onto the screen. That's it. This is so simple. So if you were able to understand this concept, understanding this would be a lot easier for you. So please go back and try to refer the early video that you have just gone through, and then this concept would be a lot easier to you. I'll just do a recap of whatever I have just explained. Here we have a Streamlit library being imported as st, the alias of it, and then we are trying to import chart open class and also some of the other things that we need to implement this use case. And then we are setting the page of this application to Langchain demo and the header to hey, I'm your ChatGPT. And then we are using a session messages here, which will help us carry information from conversation to conversation even when the page gets refreshed. Then I have a function here which could be useful later on. Here also I have a function which can help us achieve getting the input from the user. Then I'm actually creating an object out of this particular class that we have just imported, which will help us create that conversational kind of applications. And from here the code will start. This command will call this function, which will actually get the input from the user to the variable, which is this. And then we have the input. So what we have to do, we have to send it to the model so that we can get the output. So that is what we are doing. We have a button which will actually help us run the specific function based on the input. So once the button is clicked, this will be executed and it will be stored here. Submit is clicked, so this condition will turn to true. Here we have been calling another function which is load answer. The input to this is nothing but the text that we are inputting here, and this will go from here to the bottom. Here we are just trying to append whatever question that we got from the user to the list which we have already, which is similar to this. This we have already defined, and we are trying to add the user input also to this list so that we can pass the whole thing to the model, so that it has the context of it is a sarcastic AI bot and it should answer this question in that way. A similar thing is done. Then we are saving whatever answer we got from the model, which is this here, for example, into a variable called assistant name. And then we are trying to add this also to the list of messages so that later on we can send the whole bunch of conversation to the model to get more context oriented answers. So this is what it is doing right here, just adding up all the responses just to have the context of the conversation. Later on we will use more advanced techniques which will help us achieve the same functionality rather than doing all this manually. So once this is executed, it will return the answer. To get the answer, you have to use dot content. This is the response that we get, which is nothing but this one for us, right? This content. If you just give this, it will generate this, but if you give content, it will give a properly formatted answer. This is being assigned to this. This is being passed on to this so that it can display the output. Let me have another conversation here so that you get the working idea of this particular application. Let me go ahead and start using it once again so that we know how it's actually working. Hey friend, I'll click on generate, and it's asking this, and I'll say my friend is a good person, and then I generate it. Let's see what it gives out. It says, that's great to hear. It's wonderful to have good friends in our lives. I'll say he is also a good musician, and then that's fantastic. It's always great to have who are talented in different areas. I'll ask the model, is my friend a good person or bad one? Let's see what would be the response of it. It says, based on what you have told me, it sounds like your friend is a good person and a talented musician. Great that we were able to tell the bot to remember all the previous conversation and have a good chat with it. This is how you can actually start implementing your own chatbots, which are capable of remembering your historical conversation. Please go ahead and try to download the files and get started with the implementation. All the best. Let's go ahead and understand text embedding models. This is the final model that we will be discussing. So let's go ahead. We are here where we have a small written description or a definition about word embedding. So word embeddings in simple language is nothing but a numerical representation of words, sentences, or any character. Because, as we know, the systems or the computers that we communicate are used today accepts only numerical input, and they don't understand the natural language that we use to communicate among ourselves. So we have to always provide it a numerical input, which comprises of zeros and ones. To achieve that particular task, we can use word embeddings, which have become very famous. For that, we can use word embeddings, which have been growing a lot in the recent times. There are a lot of word embedding techniques available in the market in the field of NLP. As you can see, this helps us to find the relatedness. If you look at the image right here, you can see there are different words and it is able to segregate those words based on their category. If we look at the school, we can see student, elementary, college, and all this are clustered together. How is it possible? Because a word, when it is represented as a numerical value, this remains the same, because if a particular word has to be represented as something, a closer word to it will also represent the same. So that's the concept here. Right here, for food, you can find all the products related to food are clustered as one group, and similar to that, ball, kick, pitch, off, all these things are related words. Let me show you an example of how this actually works. So I have found a good image over the internet which would give you a good concept around word embeddings. Cat, kitten, dog, houses. As you can see, we have few words with us like man, women, king, and queen. These are the words, and we want to convert them to word embeddings. Word embeddings, as I have already told, are nothing but the numerical representation of words. As you can see, the system will try to come up with some features. For the convenience, we have given some features right here like living being, human, gender, royalty, and all these things, based on which it will try to convert it to a numerical vector form. Don't be confused about it. It's a complex subject, but let me put it down into simple words. As you can see, if I consider a feature called living being, here it's 0.6 for cat because it's a living being, right? And then we have gender, which is 0.4. Okay, and then comes royalty. Because the cat is not from a royal family, we have mentioned it as minus 0.7. Okay, going forward, kitten will have most of the features similar to this particular thing. So most of it would be same, plus or minus few values. And dog will not be similar to it. There might be some variations. As you can see, is it a human? No. The gender of it, royalty of it, and all these things. And house will have have more variations compared to cat and dog. This is what you can see in the right hand side. Cat and kitten have been grouped up, while dog is at a certain distance and house is very far away, because this forms a group. So when this are represented, this value 0 0.6, 0 0.9, 0 0.1, when this values right here 0 0.6, 0 0.9, 0 0.1 are represented in 7 dimensions, 4 dimensions or 5 dimensions, they form a vector which can be used to represent this words right here, which is cat, kitten and dog. Hope you have understood the concepts of word embeddings. You simply get the idea, I guess so. It's just a conversion of word representation to numeric representation. If you want more resources, I'll be providing them at the end of the course so that you can refer and understand this concept in much better way. If you are a research student, then you will definitely have to understand the internal workings of it, because you yourself might be involved in creating embedding models. But if you are just here to implement some projects using this concept, you can go ahead and utilize it. And you might be confused about what is the use of this embedding. The number one use, okay, is it will reduce the dimensionality, because it will help you represent your words in a more reduced dimensional, and then it will also help you predict the similar words. And then the final one, it will help you find the semantic meaning of words. Semantic, it's nothing but just the relatedness. Okay, how related is cat with kitten? Got it, right? The uses of this is also that machine learning models are not capable of taking in characters or the words itself. They want a numeric representation to be as an input. So that's where this embeddings can be helpful. Great. I think we have learned a lot about word embeddings. Let's move ahead and use OpenAI to convert words to its numeric representation. Let's go ahead and try to implement this text embeddings. Like we will try to convert a word or a sentence into its numerical representation. I already have a notebook where I've implemented it. I'll just try to open it up. As you can see, the first command that we will try to run is pip install Langchain. So as we know, this will allow us to use the Langchain framework. I'll just execute this. So right now this is done, and the next thing, because we'll be working with OpenAI, we'll try to install this library too. We are aware that for us to communicate with OpenAI services, we need an API key. We'll just have this and execute this also. And the next things, for us to use the embeddings facility provided by OpenAI through Langchain, we need to use this class, which is available in this module of Langchain. So I'll just try to import that too. I'll just execute this. And the next thing would be to initialize, sorry, this should be this one. Yeah, so we'll try to initialize OpenAI embeddings so that we have an object which can be used to get our appropriate response. So I'll just execute this. To execute in the Jupyter notebook, I'm just hitting on Shift Enter. Assuming this is our text, I have given a simple text, hey buddy. And then I'll try to execute this line. Finally, I'll try to pass this text to the embeddings object that we have in this particular way. Once I execute this, it should have converted this particular text right here to its numerical representation. Now we will try to go ahead and print this particular embeddings that we have. I'll just click on Shift Enter, and great, we have the output. So the sentence that we have, hey buddy, is being converted to its text representation. As you can see, there are a lot of features that have been created. So this represents one feature, this represents one feature, this represents one feature. You can consider this as living being, as we have already seen, this being how much is it a living being. So it is like minus 0.097% living being. and how you can actually represent its gender. So this is like 0.005, can be between male and female kind of thing. This can be maybe royalty. So how royal is it? Like, is it from a royal family or is it a poor thing? So I have been just giving examples, but this might be some feature that the model has felt very valid and it has created it. As you can see, it has similarly created this many features. So if you give out, maybe in your use case, if you give out another sentence, hi friend, and try to compare this with that, then you'll be able to do it by using text embeddings, because all the machine learning models accepts numerical inputs, and it would be very easy for it to understand this representation in its own language. Going forward, we'll definitely try to use this particular technique, our model, in our projects. As this is a bit of advanced concept, needs us to implement a bit advanced projects that we will soon do. But before that, we'll be implementing few basic applications so that you get very comfortable with developing applications that use this particular models. Soon you'll be able to see this in practice. Meet you in the next lecture. As we are now already aware of how to convert a text into numeric values, a vector basically, let's go ahead and have a look at another example which will give you a good idea about how we convert text to embeddings, which we have already seen, and addition to it, which is how useful it is, and a use case of it where we'll try to use this embeddings to perform our task. Let's go ahead. I have this notebook where I have tried to implement a use case where, as usual, I'm trying to install the Langchain. So I'll just explain you the overview of this. Here I have an Excel CSV where I have few words: elephant, lion, tiger, dog, cricket, football, tennis, a group of animals, sports, and fruits. So the agenda here is, whenever I give a particular word, say orange, oh, it's already there. Whenever I go ahead and give a word called strawberry, so it should be able to find the similar words that we already have. In this case, it can be apple, orange, and banana. This is how we will try to learn about how to implement this solution. As you can see, I have read this particular file that I have with me, and then I have converted them into embeddings, and then I gave an input called mango. Even for this, I have tried to get the embeddings similar to this, and then I found out the similarity score. Here, as you can see, for mango, the banana, orange, and apple have an high similarity score, while the others have less of it. And then I've applied an ascending order and I've got the top three items, which are very similar to the input that I have provided. This is something that we'll be implementing. So let me take you to the top, and I'll just clear this particular output so that we can execute from top to bottom. Great. So the output is cleared right now. The first thing that we will try to do is, as usual, we will try to install this Langchain into our environment. Shift enter, and it might take a while. And the next thing would be to install OpenAI. This might take a while. This is done, and then we'll be using OpenAI, and this is something that we have already seen, where we import OS module and we will assign our OpenAI API key to it. So this is also done. Then in the previous example, we have seen that we are using this class, which is a wrapper around embeddings feature of OpenAI. So I'll just import this also, and then we will try to take an object of this particular class like this. We are just initializing this class by using embeddings equal to OpenAI embedding. Once we execute this, the object will be created and we can go ahead and use that object to get the embeddings. Because we have our data right here in this particular Excel sheet, I'm going ahead and trying to import pandas library, which can help us read the Excel sheet that we have. So this is what it will do. I'm printing it out so that we can have a view of it. So it was able to print it out. Just after that, as you can see, we have a code snippet which represents this. The simple meaning of this is nothing but we are trying to get the embeddings of each one of these words right here: school, college, car, bike, apple, orange, banana. This is what I'm trying to do. I want this embeddings to be applied to all of these words. That is where we use apply function. You can just go through this particular comment to get more idea on what is apply doing here exactly. I'll try to explain it in plain words. We are taking the words column, which is nothing but this, and on top of it we are trying to take each word out of it, which is which row basically. Consider we have taken this for the first time. This X represents this particular thing, and to it we are trying to apply the embeddings. Basically we are trying to get the embeddings. So this will return us an embeddings, and this will be stored into the embeddings column of this data frame. And then we are writing back the whole data frame to an CSV file so that we don't have to hit the OpenAI every time, just to save the cost. I'll try to execute this. It might take a while. It's done, and here I'm trying to read out the CSV file that we have just saved and displayed. Great. As you can see, there's a new column being added to this data frame earlier. This is embeddings. This embeddings is nothing but whatever we have seen earlier. It is a numerical representation of a text. Later on, we will use this column's values to find the similarity. This is done. So the next thing will be to execute this part of code. Here, because I already have a corpus of data, I've just taken a small amount of data, but in real time we'll have millions of rows. So I just wanted to see if mango matches with any one of this. So I've given mango to my variable our text. So I'll just execute this, and similar to what we have done here, I'll try to do the same for this particular value. Because this is not a list or a loop, I'll just pass this value directly to this. Earlier we have been passing each one of this row to this, so we have used this complex function maybe, but right now we are just using this text as the input to this. Let's see what happens. It will take a while, and this is done, and then I'll just try to print it. As you can see, there are a lot of features being extracted. Now once this is done, here as you can see, we can determine how similar a word is to other words in our data frame after we have a vector representation of that particular word. This simply means that we already have the data with us where we have the embeddings for that particular corresponding word. For school, this will be the embeddings, which is nothing but a numerical representation. For this we have this, for this we have this. And now we are trying to use a technique called cosine similarity. Cosine similarity will actually compare the embeddings of the text mango, which is this, with all the other words that we have with us, and give out a percentage which can be used to find how similar a word is with the other words. Right now I'm not using Langchain's wrapper for cosine similarity for the simplicity, because I just wanted to let you know how this embeddings can be used in real time. So going forward, I'll try to implement a project using Langchain's wrappers, completely Langchain's wrappers, so that you have a good idea of how to use them. Here, I have tried to import this particular function from embeddings underscore utils module of OpenAI library. Here, as you can see, this looks similar to what we have already seen, right? This one. Yes, it is, because here we are doing the same things. We are taking the embeddings column of the data frame, which is this, and to that we are applying lambda function. For every row of it, which is this, we are applying cosine function, and this particular cosine similarity takes up two parameters. One is nothing but this embeddings, and the other one text embeddings. What exactly is this? This is something that we have got for the input that we have given, this. So it will just compare the embeddings of this, which is this, to this word's embeddings, this, and it will just write down those values right here. This is what we are trying to achieve. So I'm passing this embeddings, which is there in the data frame, the first one, consider the first one, and this, the embeddings of mango, and trying to give that particular value, or trying to store that value in similarity score column. So this itself will repeat until all this are completed. So let me run this. It might take a while. So this will add another column with the values it was able to fetch. Awesome. So this is done. As you can see, it has compared the embedding of school, which is this, with this, and found out that this vector representation is this much similar, which is very less actually compared to banana, because obviously the input that we have given, mango, is very similar to banana, orange, apple, because all of them belongs to fruits category. So that's where we have got this. Because this view is not very representative of what we want, we'll try to just take the ascending order of this particular data frame and sort them using similarity score, and just pick the first 10. I'll just run this, and you can see we have got banana at the top, and then orange, apple, and bike. So we can just pick the first three. This particular thing can be modified a lot to get the accurate results, but this is just to show you the application of embeddings, so that you have a good idea of how the embeddings are being used in the industries. You can pick this concept and go ahead and make your own applications which can use similar kind of techniques in it. So that's it. It's a simple code that we have, where we are using few existing classes, and we are making API calls, and we are arranging them in a well way so that we can compare them and get the similarity between this. This cosine is just simply a small formula that is being used to get this particular score. As you can see, this is a simple implementation of cosine similarity. This is what we have there. We have a word vector of one word, and we have a word vector of another word. We are using simple calculations to get that particular cosine similarity value. At base, this is what the formula represents: a dot b, and then this value at the bottom. If you can just get these values corrected, then you will be able to calculate this value manually also at small scale. If the values are this huge, then it will be difficult for you. So we give this task to the system. You can explore more on that particular concept of cosine similarity. It's an interesting concept that you can go ahead and try to explore. So we can go ahead and we will try to implement another project which we'll be able to deploy. Congratulations, you're far away from a lot of people who don't even know what are embeddings. With the knowledge that you have just acquired, we'll try to build an application which can actually help kids understand similar things from whatever they know already. So this is the user interface of the application, where you have a text written which says, hey, ask me something and I'll give out similar things. If the child knows that an elephant exists, then he can directly type it right here, and if he clicks on this particular button, it will give out the similar things that are related to the input. we'll try to use it up once. I'll go ahead and give strawberry and click on this button. It is giving up banana, apple. So these are fruits. And then let me give another word and try to find the similar things. For cat, it should show animals. This is what it has given, dog and tiger. So this is how you'll be able to help kids learn the similar objects. A little funny application, but it will give you a good hands-on whatever you have learned till this point. But going ahead, we'll try to implement the solution in Visual Studio Code rather than in Jupyter Notebook. The reasons being, Visual Studio Code is a powerful code editor where you will be able to write a wide variety of applications, programming languages, which makes it very suitable for major projects. And it also allows you to have the customizability, which will give you a good help while implementing projects because you'll be able to make use of different extensions available in the market, and also themes and settings can be used up. And also it's very lightweight compared to Jupyter Notebook, so it will use up your resources very efficiently. The reason why we have used Jupyter Notebook earlier was because the learning curve for this particular Visual Studio Code is very high. So it will make a beginner very confused. So at this point of time, I would like to introduce this tool so that we can continue writing our code in this particular IDE. There are a lot of benefits of Jupyter Notebook also because it helps us quickly prototype our solution, and because it is helpful in combining the code and the visualizations at one place. It is very helpful when you want to share your code with someone so that they know that something is possible and they can go ahead and build it as a real-time project. Let's go ahead and quickly download this particular application from this site. You can go here, click on this button if you're a Windows user, and similar to this for Linux, for Mac. Because I have Windows, I'll just try to download this. It might take a while and you will just download it. Once it is downloaded, please go ahead, install it so that we can start with our development. Once the download is completed and you're able to install it, this is what you'll find in the home screen. There are options like File, Edit, Selection, View, Run, Terminal. So you can go through each one of them to understand it better. Else, you can just click on File and then open any folder. This folder is nothing but where exactly you want your project to be. Just create a folder, and inside that there can be files or there cannot be any files. So just select this and it will try displaying all the files available in that particular folder. So I have already implemented this code as usual. The reason why I do this is I don't want to waste time typing these things. Rather, I want to utilize this time to explain the content right here to you in a better way so that you understand why exactly we are using something right here. So the first thing, all these files right here will be available to you at the end of your projects. So please download them and try to code these things in parallel to me so that you can understand what's exactly happening. Please download these files at the end of the project and then come back and let's see what we can do. The first thing that you have to do is right here in requirements.txt file, we have the dependencies because this is what we need. All these libraries are needed for our application. So Langchain, Streamlit, OpenAI, TikToken, Python.environment, EFAI, SS, CPU. So all these things we'll be using. So please go ahead and install them. The way you can do it is, I'll just close this up. You can go to this terminal and click on new terminal and try to run this requirements.txt. You can just type pip install r and requirements dot txt and then just click on enter. So this will try to install all the dependencies for a project. Because I have them installed, this hasn't taken much time, but for you, it might take a while. Once this is done, you can directly go to this .env.example file and have a look at it. It just says that we are using some sensitive information in our project, which is OpenAI API key. From this is where we'll be able to get the responses, right? So yeah, this is what it mentions, and the value for this will be there in this file, which is .env. It's just a skeleton of it, and this is where the sensitive data resides. You can give this key, and for that you can supply this value, which will be later on used up by our project. And this is the file that we have with us, using which we'll be able to find the similar words. This can be really huge, maybe millions of items, but for our project, I have just considered a small set of words so that you understand what's happening internally. And then finally, we have the code. It might seem a little confusing to you at this point, but don't be worried. I'll try to take you through each one of these lines right here. Wherever possible, I have tried to give well-structured comments so that you understand why exactly are we using a line of code. Once you have installed this and given all these values, we'll go here and try to execute from top to bottom. All these things you're already aware of because I have given a good walkthrough of this in the previous implementations. So please have a look at them before going through this particular project. Yeah. The first one is import Streamlit as ST. You can see Streamlit is a framework, an open source framework, which will help you build interactive applications. Because this will help you create interesting user interfaces, which will help you take input and give out the response. So that's where I'm going ahead and using this library for our application. This we have already installed the Streamlit, so we can go ahead and start using it. And then comes operating system. This module will help us interact with the operating system that we have at hand, which will also allow us to interact with the files, directories, and perform various actions. And then comes OpenAI embeddings class. This class right here is just a wrapper around OpenAI, which will help you convert your text to numerical representation. You can just go through this comment. I have added it right here so that it gives you more meaning to your understanding basically. And then comes FAISS. This might be a little new to you. This is nothing but an open source library developed by Facebook, which will help us perform some similarity searches. And also when we want to cluster a group of data into some categories, this library will be very helpful. It would be very good or helpful to you if you can go through this particular open source library and have a look at it at least for 15 minutes so that you understand what exactly it is and what are the benefits of using it. So this is what we are trying to import. Our Langchain library has a good wrapper around this. So this is what we have imported. And then we are importing load underscore dot env. This is a function available in this particular library. This will help us load the variables from .env file into the environment variables, which can be used by our Python script. The main reason, as I have already told, we use env is to store the sensitive information which we don't want to be visible to the others while hosted in public. The first step that we will try to do is execute this function so that it will load all the sensitive information, and then we will try to execute this function which will try to load all these values into our environment. which can be later on used by our Python script right here. Because as you can see, we were earlier executing this, which is actually storing this value into this key, but this is not needed right now. You can just remove it because this itself is doing that work. The next thing is st.setPageConfig. St is nothing but an alias name of Streamlit. This function right here helps you to set the page title and also set the page icon as we have seen earlier, and you can also give a good interesting header to it. Once that is done, because we are planning to perform some similarity search, we definitely need the embeddings to be imported. So this is where we are trying to create an object of OpenAI embeddings, which is nothing but a wrapper around OpenAI's embeddings feature. So once we do this, this model's representation is available in this object. So we'll go ahead and try to use this wherever needed. This code right here, though seems a bit complex, is simply helping us load the CSV file that we have with us, which is this, into our code. As you can see, I've just mentioned the file name. Basically, this is the method or the function which is helping us import CSV file to our environment. And this is also coming out of Langchain library. So here it just expects the file path, which is this, and then we can give few arguments. If the delimiter for your CSV is other than comma anything, maybe a semicolon or hyphen, you can just replace it with your input. Then field names, basically words. This is what is the column name for me right here. And the code character here represents the double quotes for us. This is the default one. And once this setup is done, the next thing would be to load whatever we have in the CSV into a variable that we have, which is data. From here to here, we have just done data loading from this CSV to our variable. And this variable can be later on used to get the similar results. You can try to just display it to see if you're able to fetch the information from the CSV. Once that is done, as we know, this is an open source library which will help us perform similarity search and clustering of data. We have already imported it. We are going ahead and we are trying to use some methods of it. It says from this particular module, use this particular function which will take two inputs. One is data and the other one is embeddings. The data is the one on which we want to perform the embeddings, or for which data we actually want to get the embedding representation. For us, as we know, this is definitely the CSV data. So this is what we are passing here, and it says embeddings. For embeddings, what exactly do you want to use? For embeddings, I want to use OpenAI. This can be anything. Maybe you can use an embedding facility from Hugging Face also. And most of the models available out there are very cheap, and most of them are open source. So you can just replace this with any of them as per your need. For this particular course, I have been using open source. So I'm just going ahead and using this and passing this. So this code right here will just create the embedding or the vector representation of this data and store it in this variable right here. I hope this is clear. And then this will be used later on. So right here we have a function which is something that we have already seen. This function is right here to get the information from the user. This input function just represents this field from where we are actually getting the information. And going to the bottom, we'll find this function is being called, and from this is where we will get the input of the user stored into user input. And then as soon as he clicks on find similar things button, this particular piece of code will be executed. As soon as someone clicks on this, this code will be executed and this results will be shown on the display. And once someone clicks that, it will go into this. And this is the interesting line in the whole project that we have to understand. As we know that we are performing some similarity search on the data that we had earlier, where we had the embeddings being created for the CSV data. It's there in this particular variable, which is db. On top of it, we are performing similarity search, and this function is expecting an input because it has to search against something, right? So if I just give out cat as an input, so this will be cat, and this will be compared with the whole set of data that we have so that it can provide the output. So once we give an input to this function, which is applied on the whole data that we have, the results will be stored in docs. By default, you will get 4 results out of this particular operation, but you can just increase it by explicitly mentioning the k value to any of this number. For now, I'm just leaving it as default. It will just display all the results, the 4 results that were matching. I don't want all the 4 results, so I'm taking the first item out of it and applying page content, because there's a lot of clutter that you might end up getting. I'll just show you. If you don't want that, you can just have this on the screen. You can just have this on the code. I'm just picking up the top 2. Let me go ahead and try to remove this so that you understand what exactly will be printed if this is not there. Also, I'll try to print this doc right here. Okay, you can go to terminal. Right here you can just type Streamlit run, and you have to mention the Python file and just enter. So it has started the application and should be available for you soon. As you can see, we have the UI ready. I'll just type cat and click on this. It is running and it displays dog and tiger. I'll try to print this to the dogs so that you understand how exactly it looks like. And once this is done, just save the file and come to the terminal and start typing Streamlit run and the file that we want to execute. This should take a while and it will launch the application so that we can start interacting with it. Here's the application. It is running and it is loaded. I'll just type cat and click on find similar things. It has given some data here which includes dog and this is tiger. So if we take this value without page content added to it, it will give all these values. So I'll add this method. So I'll just add this method to ignore the other content and just to pick this one. And also, because of this line right here, you will be able to see all the results that this docs variable holds. So this is how you'll be able to implement your projects using Visual Studio Code. And going forward, as we are using this application still in our local like this, for the next projects that we'll be implementing, we will try to launch it and make it live so that you can go ahead and share it with your friends and family and they can start using it based on their interest. So all these files will be available to you at the end of the project. So please go through them and try to understand what exactly I have commented. This will give you a good understanding of why exactly we are importing a particular class and what is the use of it, and it will make your basics strong. I hope you have enjoyed the project and I definitely encourage you to go ahead and start implementing it so that you can gain a lot of confidence and be ready to take up any project that comes along your way at your organization, or help yourself with any application that you want to create.